The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark.
Glory to you, O Lord.
James and John, the sons of Zebedee, came to Jesus and said to him, "Teacher, we want to do for us whatever we ask of you." He replied, "What do you wish me to do for you?" They answered, "Grant that in your glory we may sit one at your right and the other at your left." Jesus said to them, "You do not know what you are asking. Can you drink the cup that I drink, or be baptized with the baptism with which I am baptized?" They said to him, "We can." Jesus said to them, "The cup that I drink, you will drink. And with the baptism with which I am baptized, you will be baptized. But to sit at my right or at my left is not mine to give, but is for those for whom it has been prepared." When the 10 heard this, they became indignant at James and John. Jesus summoned them and said to them, "You know that those who are recognized as rulers over the Gentiles lord it over them, and their great ones make their authority over them felt. But it shall not be so among you. Rather, whoever wishes to be great among you will be your servant. Whoever wishes to be first among you will be the slave of all. For the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
I heard God laugh as I began to prepare for this homily. And I read the Gospel. To be recognized, to be given special privileges, to be given a title of honor. That's my Achilles heel. My whole thing about wanting to be a Monsignor is not about loving God and others. It's about Jerry Reagan's selfish pride and self-centeredness. So I very much get where the Zebedee boys are coming from in today's gospel passage. John and James realize how privileged they are to be numbered among Jesus' closest friends. And so it's only natural that they seek the glory that they presume accompanies such privilege. Most of us get that. But much to their surprise, Jesus offers John and James a share in his own cup of suffering. He had just told them in the passage before this one that we're going up to Jerusalem and the Son of Man will be handed over to the chief priests and the scribes, and they will condemn him to death and hand him over to the Gentiles, who will mock him, spit upon him, scourge him, and put him to death. They really couldn't hear that. They didn't want to hear it. It made no sense that the Messiah would suffer in such a way. It's amazing that there are over 1 billion Catholics that follow Jesus today. Because even with a whole lot of theological mumble jumble, it is really hard to get your head around the idea that the pathway to glory is the cross. The idea of a God who loves us so much that he would die for love of us. The idea of sacrificial love. The gospel tells us that the Son of Man came to serve, not to be served. Our God dwelt among us to show us what love looks like. Jesus, the Son of God, paid the price for loving us unconditionally by being killed for it. According to the wisdom of the world, that doesn't make very much sense at all. And I'm not nearly gifted enough as a preacher to be able to give you very much of an explanation. But I do know sacrificial love when I see it. I see it in the priests of the diocese. Because of the pandemic and Hurricane Dorian in September of 2019, it's been 3 years since we last made our annual retreat together. It was so good to be with them this week. On Tuesday morning, I was walking from the chapel to breakfast with one of the young priests of the diocese. Along with a few other priests, we had just made a holy hour before breakfast. I was curious if he made a holy hour every day. He said, most days I do. And as I bring the challenges of my ministry to prayer, I find great inner peace. And then he said, in that hour, I find myself falling in love with God. Isn't that wonderful? God does not save us from the challenges of life, but He does stand with us. My parents buried 2 of their adult children, and it shook their faith. But ultimately, they placed their trust in God's love, a love that God had for His own Son, whose death He experienced, and in doing so, won the victory over sin and evil and even death itself. I see my own family members living out sacrificial love as they care for a special needs nephew of mine and a special needs grandnephew with such great devotion and tenderness. I see sacrificial love in the lives of so many of you who are married. Soon after the glow of the honeymoon faded, you may have realized that you committed yourself to a spouse that was less than perfect. You may have also realized how deep was your own self-centeredness, how limited your patience was. Over the years, you've had to die to self for your love to survive and grow. I see sacrificial love in the concern that many of you have for your adult children. Some of you know the ache of being unable to share with them your own enthusiasm for faith in Jesus Christ. Some of you have seen them make obviously unwise choices about major issues, and you've had to bite your tongue and live with the powerlessness of not being able to do as much as you'd want for them. You chose to serve, not to be served, and have at times suffered for your love. And so, many of you have become beautiful in the process. Wise, serene, self-giving, life-giving. Those of us who never got married, who became widowed or separated or divorced, have also known the inevitable pain of living sacrificially. In one shape or another, all of us who are serious about following Jesus must figure out what it means to serve the rest, what it means to freely give ourselves over to the way of sacrificial love. And yet the choice to follow, to remain committed, to be faithful, surprisingly, is the way to peace and joy and wisdom. This life of faith can be so paradoxical. It's all something of a mystery. But more than ever, our church and our world today are in dire need of people who are willing to live that mystery, who are willing to love sacrificially, people who are willing to live the gospel of Jesus Christ. And so I suggest two simple paths that will lead you deeper into that mystery. Number one, if you've gotten out of the habit of praying regularly, I'd suggest that you go back and reread the book that we gave out last Christmas, Matthew Kelly's book, I Heard God Laugh. Prayer is the key in keeping us connected to the God of love. And number two, always have a sense of mission. Give your life as Jesus gave his life in sacrificial love for others. Give yourself to prayer and the service of love, and you just might find that you too are falling in love with God. Amen. I look forward to this Wednesday evening at